Welcome to our explainer. Today, we are digging into an ancient text, the Book of Numbers, to uncover, get this, a surprisingly modern blueprint for what makes a community really work. Let's get right into it.
So, we're going to start with a bit of a puzzle. The ancient Israelites, they've just finished building this massive sacred tent, their tabernacle, right? It's their central place of worship. And then the story just kind of grinds to a halt. It gets stuck in this loop, repeating the exact same list of stuff, word for word, 12 times in a row. Now, your first thought might be, wow, that's some really bad editing. But here's the thing. As we're going to see, that repetition, it isn't a mistake. It's the whole point.
Okay, so before this huge dedication ceremony gets started, the very first gifts that show up, they aren't what you'd expect. No gold, no jewels. Instead, it's something way more practical. We're talking carts and oxen, basically heavy-duty equipment for the Levites. And you can think of the Levites as the tabernacle's official support team, the logistics and operations crew.
And check this out, the way they hand out this gear is really interesting. It's not equal at all. So you've got the Merarites, their job was to move the heavy stuff, like the framework, the pillars, all the structural pieces. They get the most equipment, right? Makes sense. Then there are the Gershonites. They were in charge of the lighter things, the curtains, the coverings. They get less. The equipment was perfectly matched to the job. But then you get to the Kohathites. And they get nothing. Zero. So what's the deal with that? Well, the answer is actually pretty profound. You see, the Kohathites had the job of carrying the most sacred objects in the entire tabernacle. We're talking things like the Ark of the Covenant, and this job was seen as so holy, so incredibly important, that you just couldn't hand it off to an animal or load it onto a cart. No way. It demanded personal, physical responsibility. It had to be carried on their own shoulders. All right, so let's get to the main event, because this is where everything starts to connect. We're at the 12-day dedication ceremony for the new altar, and this is where that strange, super detailed repetition really kicks into high gear. So for 12 days in a row, a leader from each one of Israel's 12 tribes comes forward, and they each bring the exact same gift. I mean, it's this incredibly lavish set of offerings. And every single detail, from the silver dish it served on down to the number of male lambs, it is identical. Day after day after day. And you got to understand, the value of these gifts was just staggering for the time. Over those 12 days, the community brought in a massive 2,400 shekels of silver. And on top of that, 120 shekels of pure gold. Now, to put that into perspective for you, a single shekel was worth about 4 days' pay for a regular working person. So yeah, this was not pocket change. We're talking about an unbelievably generous collective gift. It really showed just how committed everyone was. So here's the crucial takeaway, right? That super long, repetitive list, it's not just filler text. It's actually making a huge statement. By listing out each tribe's identical gift in full, one by one, the text is basically shouting that every single tribe, no matter how big or small, no matter their history or their status, is valued equally. It makes a point to honor every leader by name, showing them leading by example. That very act of repetition, that's what's building the community. And this whole theme of dedication, it keeps going in the next chapter. But now the focus shifts away from material gifts and onto the people themselves. Now we get to see the official ceremony for the Levites, the actual people who are going to manage this whole sacred operation. So the Levites go through this really detailed purification ritual, and all these external things they have to do, being sprinkled with water, shaving their bodies, washing their clothes. It was all symbolic. It was all meant to represent this deep, internal, spiritual cleanliness that was required to serve in such a holy place. It was about setting them apart for this incredibly unique job. And their role really was unlike any other. They were set apart from all the other Israelites in a very special way, to be completely devoted to the work of the tabernacle. You could almost say they stood in as representatives for the entire nation, kind of like a living offering dedicated to this service. This whole thing also shows a really structured and frankly humane approach to work. A Levite's service wasn't forever. They started their work at age 25. They were on active duty through their prime years, up to age 50. And then they retired from all the heavy lifting. But they didn't just disappear. They became mentors and assistants. It's a system that totally gets the physical demands of the job, and it builds in these clear seasons for work and for rest.
So let's pull all these threads together. You've got the specific equipment for specific jobs, you've got the repetitive offerings, the structured careers. What does it all add up to? What's the big idea we're supposed to take away from all these ancient rules?
Well, the ultimate takeaway is this timeless blueprint for a healthy, thriving community. It's a system where, yeah, you have different roles and different responsibilities, but everyone has equal value. The Kohathites, with their zero cards, were just as essential as the Merarites with their fleet of them. The tribe that brought its gift on the very last day was celebrated just as much as the one that went first. The point is, when every single person does their specific part and does it faithfully, the whole community just works.
And that principle, it's just as powerful today as it was thousands of years ago. Which kind of leaves us with a final question, doesn't it? If we think about our own communities, our workplaces, our neighborhoods, even our families, what would actually change if we all started acting like every single role, every single contribution was truly valued equally?